Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and One Night. Now, when it was the 847th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Zayn Al-Mawasif bade the chessboard be brought, they set it between her hands. And Masur was amazed at this, when she turned to him and said, Wilt thou have red or white? He replied, O princess of the fair, and adornment of morning air, do thou take the red, for thy formas are and fitter for the like of thee to bear, and leave the white to my care. Answered she, So be it. And taking the red pieces, ranged them opposite the white, then put out her hand to a piece, proposing the first pass into the battle plan. Masur considered her fingers, which were white as paste, and was confounded at their beauty and shapely shape, whereupon she turned to him and said, O Masur, be dazed, but take patience and calm thyself. He rejoined, O thou whose beauty shameth the moon, how shall a lover look on thee and have patience boon? And while this was doing, she cried, Checkmate, and beat him, wherefore she knew that he was gin-mad for love of her, and said to him, O Masur, I will not play with thee save for a set stake. He replied, I hear and obey. And she rejoined, Swear to me, and I will swear to thee, that neither of us will cheat the adversary. So both swear this, and she said, O Masur, an I beat thee, I will have 10 dinars of thee, but an thou beat me, I will give thee a mere nothing. He expected to win, so he said, O my lady, be not false to thine oath, for I see thou art an overmatch for me at this game. Agreed, said she, and they ranged their men and fell again to playing and pushing on their pawns and catching them up, and the queens, and aligning and matching them with the castles, and solacing them with the onslaught of the knights. Now the adornment of qualities wore on head a kerchief of blue brocade, so she loosed it off, and tucked up under her sleeve showed a wrist like a shaft of light, and passed her palm over the red pieces, saying to him, Look to thyself. But he was dazzled at her beauty, and the sight of her graces bereft him of reason, so that he became dazed and amazed, and put out his hand to the white men, but it alit upon the red. Said she, O Masur, where be thy wits? The red are mine, and the white are thine. And he replied, Whoso looketh at thee perforce loseth all his senses. Then seeing him it was with him, she took the white from him and gave him the red, and they played, and she beat him. He ceased not to play with her, and she to beat him, whilst he paid her each time 10 dinars, till, knowing him to be distraught for love of her, she said, O Masur, thou wilt never win thy wish, except thou beat me, for such was our understanding, and henceforth I will not play with thee, save for a stake of 100 dinars per game. With love and gladness, answered he, and she went on playing and ever beating him, and he paid her 100 dinars each time. And on this ways they abode till the morning, without his having won a single game. When he suddenly sprang to his feet, quoth she, What wilt thou do, O Masur? And quoth he, I mean to go to my lodging, and fetch somewhat of money. It may be I shall come to my desire. Do whatso seemeth good to thee, she said, and so he went home, and taking all the money he had, returned to her, improvising these 2 couplets. In dream I saw a bird of speed, meseemed, love's garden decked with blooms that smiled and gleamed. But I shall ken when won my wish, and will of thee the truthful sense of what I dreamed. Now, when Masur returned to her with all his monies, they fell a-playing again, but she still beat him, and he could not beat her once. And in such case they abode 3 days, till she had gotten of him the whole of his coin. Whereupon said she, O Masur, what wilt thou do now? And he replied, I will stake thee a druggist's shop. What is it worth? Asked she, and he answered, 500 dinars. So they played 5 bouts, and she won the shop of him. Then he betted his slave girls, lands, houses, gardens, and she won the whole of them, till she had gotten of him all he had. Whereupon she turned to him and said, Hast thou aught left to lay down? Cried he, By him who made me fall into the snare of thy love, I have neither money to touch, nor aught else left, little or much. She rejoined, O Masur, the end of whatso began in content shall not drive man to repent. Wherefore, an thou regret aught, take back thy good, and be gone from me about thy business, and I will hold thee quit towards me. Masur rejoined, By him who decreed these things to us, though thou sought to take my life, 'twere a wee thing to stake for thine approof, because I love none but thee. Then said she, O Masur, fare forthright, and fetch the Kazi and the witnesses, and make over to me by deed all thy lands and possessions. Willingly, replied he, and going forth without stay or delay brought the Kazi and the witnesses, and set them before her. When the judge saw her, his wits fled, and his mind was amazed, and his reason was dazed for the beauty of her fingers. And he said, O my lady, I will not write out the writ of conveyance, save upon condition that thou buy the lands and mansions and slave girls, and that they all pass under thy control and into thy possession. She rejoined, We're agreed upon that. Write me a deed, whereupon all Masur's houses and lands and slave girls and whatso has right hand possesseth shall pass to Zayn Al-Mawasif and become her property at such a price. So the Kazi wrote out the writ, and the witnesses set hands thereto, whereupon she took it. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 848th night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Zayn Al-Mawasif took from the Kazi the deed which made over to her lover's property, she said to him, O Masur, now gang thy gait. But her slave girl Hubub turned to him and said, Recite us some verses. So he improvised upon the game of chess these couplets. Of time and what befell me I complain, mourning my loss by chess and eyes of bane, for love of gentlest sophist side fair, whose like is not of maids or mortal strain. The shafts of glances from those eyne who shot and led her conquering host to battle plain. Red men and white men and the clashing knights, and crying, Look to thee, came forth amain. And when down charging fingertips she showed, that gloomed like blackest night for sable satin. The whites I could not rescue, could not save, while ecstasy made tear floods rail and rain. The pawns and castles with their queens fell low, and fled the whites, nor could the brunt sustain. Yea, with her shaft of glance at me she shot, and soon that shaft had pierced my heart and brain. She gave me choice between her host and I, the whites like moonlight first to choose was fain, saying, This archant folk best fitteth thee. I love them, but the red by thee be ta'en. She played me for free except at stake, yet amorous mercy I could ne'er obtain. O fire of heart, O pine and woe of me, wooing a fair like moon mid starry train. Burns no my heart, oh no, no regrets of good of lands, but her eyes disdain. Amazed, I'm grown and dazed for dreary head, and blame I time who brought such pine and pain. Quoth she, Why art thou so bedazed? Quoth I, Wine drunk and white shall more of wine assain. That mortal stole my sense by soft shape, which doth for heart core hardest rock contain. I nerved self and cried, This day she's mine. By bet nor fear I prove she unhumane. My heart ne'er ceaseth to seek possession, till beggared I found me in conditions twain. Will youth your love shunneth the love dealt blow, though were he whelmed in love's high surging main. So woke the slave sans ain a coin to turn, thrall to repine for what shall never gain. Zayn Al-Mawasif, hearing these words, marveled at the eloquence of his tongue, and said to him, O Masur, leave this madness, and return to thy right reason and wend thy ways, for thou hast wasted all thy movables and immovables at the chess game, yet hast not won thy wish, nor hast thou any resources or device whereby thou mayest attain it. But he turned to her and said, O my lady, ask of me whatso thou wilt, and thou shalt have it, for I will bring it to thee and lay it at thy feet. Answered she, O Masur, thou hast no money left. O goal of all hopes, if I have no money, the folk will help me. Shall the giver turn asker? I have friends and kinsfolk, and whatso I seek of them, they will give me. O Masur, I will have of thee 4 pods of musk, and 4 vases of civet, and 4 pounds of ambergris, and 4,000 dinars, and 400 pieces of royal brocade purfled with gold. and thou bring me these things, I, Masur, will grant thee my favours. This is a light matter to me, O thou that puttest the moons to shame, replied he, and went forth to fetch her what she sought. She sent her maid Hubub after him to see what worth he had with folk of whom he spoken to. But as he walked along the highways, he turned, and seeing her afar off, waited till she came up to him, and said to him, Whither away, O Hubub? She said to him, My mistress sent me to follow for this and that. And he replied, By Allah, O Hubub, I have nothing to hand. She asked, Then why didst thou promise her? And he answered, How many a promise made is unkept of its maker? Fine words and love matters needs must be. When she heard this from him, she said, O Masur, be of good cheer and eyes clear, for by Allah most assuredly I will be the means of thy coming to enjoy her. Then she left him, not ceased walking till she stood before her mistress, weeping with sore weeping, and said, O my lady, indeed he is a man of great consideration and good repute among the folk. Quoth Zayn Al-Mawasif, There is no vice against the destiny of Almighty Allah. Verily this man found not in me a pitiful heart, for that I despoiled him of his substance, and he got of me neither affection nor complacence in granting him amorous joy. But if I incline to his inclination, I fear lest the thing be bruited abroad. Quoth Hubub, O my lady, verily grievous upon us is his present plight, and the loss of his goods, and thou hast with thee none save thyself and thy slave girl Sucub. So which of us two would dare prate of thee, and we thy handmaids? And with this she bowed her head for a while groundwards, and the damsel said to her, O my lady, it is our rede that thou send after him and show him grace, and suffer him not to ask of the sordid, for how bitter is such begging. So she accepted their counsel, and calling for inkcase and paper, wrote these couplets. Joy is nigh, O Masur, so rejoice and true read. When as night shall fall, thou shalt do kind deed. Crave not of the sordid, alone, fair youth. Wine stole my wits, but they now take heed. All thy goods I reft shall return to thee, and O Masur, and I'll add to them amorous meed. For indeed thou art patient and sweet of soul, when wronged by thy lover's tyrannic greed. So haste to enjoy us, and luck to thee, lest my folk come between us. Speed, love, all speed. Hurry uswards thou, nor delay, and while my maid is far, on love's fruit come feed. Then she folded the paper and gave it to Hubub the handmaid, who carried it to Masur, and found him weeping and reciting in a transport of passion, love longing, these lines. A breeze of love on my soul did blow, that consumed my liver for stress of love. When my sweetheart went, all my longings grew, and with tears in torrent my eyelids flow. Such my doubt and fears did I tell their tale, to deaf rocks and pebbles they'd melt for woe. Would heaven, I wot, shall I sight delight, and shall win my wish, and my friends shall know. Shall be folded up nights that doomed us part, and I be healed of what harms my heart. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 849th night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that while Masur, transported by passion and love-longing, was repeating his couplets in sing-song tones, Hubub knocked at his door. So he rose and opened it to her, and she entered and gave him the letter. He read it and said to her, O Hubub, what is behind thee of thy lady's news? She answered, O my lord, verily in this letter is that dispenseth me from reply, for thou art of those who readily descry. Thereat he rejoiced with joy, exceeding, and repeated these two couplets. Came the writ whose contents a new joy revealed, which is vitals mine and I would keep concealed, and my longings grew when I kissed that writ, as were a pearl of passion therein concealed. Then he wrote a letter answering hers, and gave it to Hubub, who wrote it and returned with it to her mistress, and forthright fell to extolling his charms to her, and expatiating on his good gifts and generosity, for she was become a helper to him to bring about the union with his lady. Quoth Zayn Al-Mawasif, O Hubub, indeed he tarrieth to come to us. And quoth Hubub, he will certainly come soon. Hardly had she made an end of speaking, when behold, he knocketh at the door, and she opened it to him, and brought him in to her mistress, who saluted him with a salam, and welcomed him, and seated him by her side. Then she said to Hubub, "Bring me a suit of brocade." So she brought a robe broidered with gold, and Zayn Al-Mawasif threw it over him, while she herself donned one of the richest dresses, and crowned her head with a net of pearls of the freshest water. About this she bound a fillet of brocade purfled with pearls, jacinths, and other jewels, from beneath which she let down 2 tresses, each looped with a pendant of ruby, charactered with glittering gold, and she loosed her hair as it were the sombrest night. And lastly, she incensed herself with aloes woods, and scented herself with musk and ambergris. And Hubub said to her, "Allah save thee from the evil eye." Then she began to walk, swaying from side to side with gracefulest gait, whilst Hubub, who excelled in verse-making, recited in her honor these couplets. "Shamed is the bow of Ban by pace of her, and harmed are lovers by the gaze of her. A moon she rose from murks, the hair of her, a sun from locks, the brow and case of her. Blessed he she nights with by the grace of her, who dies in her with oath by days of her." So Zayn Al-Mawasif thanked her and went up to Masur as she were full moon displayed. But when he saw her, he rose to his feet and exclaimed, "And my thought device me not. She is no human, but one of the brides of heaven." Then she called for the food, and they brought a table about whose marge were written these couplets: "Dip thou with spoons and saucers, 4, and gladden heart and eye, with many a various kind of stew, and fricassee and fry. Thereon fat quails, ne'er shall I cease to love and tender them, and rails of fowls and dainty birds of all the kinds that fly. Glory to God for the kebabs, for redness all aglow, and pot herbs steeped in vinegar, in porringers thereby. Fair fall the rise with sweet milk dressed, wherein the hands did plunge, and eke the forearms of the fair were buried bracelet high. How my heart yearneth with regrets over 2 plates of fish, that by 2 manship cakes of bread of terjois did lie." Then they ate and drank and made mirth and merriment, after which the servants removed the table of food and set on the wine service. So cup and tasse passed round between them, and they were gladdened in soul. Then Masur filled the cup and sang, "Oh, whose thrall am I, and who is my mistress?" chanted these improvised couplets: "Mine eyes I admire that can feed their fill on charms of a girl rising worlds to light. In her time she hath none to compare for gifts of spirit and body, a mere delight. Her shape breeds envy to cassia tree, when fair she forth in her symmetry dight, with luminous brow, shaming moon of dark, and crowned like crescent, the brightest bright. When treads she earth, surface her fragrance sets, the zephyr that breathes over plain and height." When he ended his extempore song, she said, "O Masur, who's religiously kept his faith, and hath eaten our bread and salt, it behooveth us to give him his due. So put away from thee all thought of what hath been, and I will restore thee thy lands and houses, and all we have taken from thee." He replied, "O my lady, I acquit thee of that whereof thou speakest, though thou hast been false to the oath and covenant between us, for I will go and become a Moslem." Zayn Al-Mawasif protested that she would follow suit, when Hubub cried to her, "O my lady, thou art young of years and knowest many things, and I claim the intercession of Almighty Allah with thee, for except thou do my bidding and heal my heart, I will not lie the night with thee in this house." And she replied, "O Hubub, it shall be as thou wilt. Rise and make us ready another sitting room." So she sprang to her feet and got ready a room, and adorned it and perfumed it after fairest fashion, even as her lady loved and preferred, after which she again set on food and wine, and the cup went round between them, and their hearts were glad. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 850th night, she resumed, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Zayn Al-Mawasif bade her maid Hubub make ready a private sitting room, she arose and did her bidding, after which she again set food and wine before them, and cup and tasse went round, gladdening their hearts. Presently quoth Zayn Al-Mawasif, O Masur, come is the time of union and favour, so as thou studiest my love to savour, recitest some verses surpassing of flavour. Upon this he recited the following ode. I am taken. My heart burns with living flame for union shorn when as severance came. In the love of a damsel who forced my soul, and with delicate checklet my reason stole. She hath eyebrows united, and eyes black-white, and her teeth are 11 that smiles in light. The tale of her years is but 10 plus 4. Tears like dragon's blood for her love I pour. First I saw that face, mid parterre and rill, outshining full lune on horizon hill, and stood like a captive for awe, and cried, Allah peace, oh, who in demise doth hide. She returned my salam, gaily answering, with the sweetest speech, like as pearls a string. But when heard my words, she right soon had known my want, and her heart waxed hard as stone. And quoth she, Be not this a word silly bold? But quoth I, Refrain thee, nor flight and scold, and to-day thou consent such affair were light. Thy like is the loved mine, the lover white. When she knew my mind, but she had smiled in mirth, and cried, Now, by the maker of heaven and earth, I'm a Jewess of jewelry's driest e'en seen, and thou art naught save a Nazarene. Why seek my favours? Thine's others cast, and this deed thou do, thou'll repent the past. Say, does love allow with two faiths to play? Men shall blame thee like me at each break of day. Wilt thou laugh at beliefs and deride their right, and in thine and mine prove thee sinful spite? And thou lovest me, thou hadst turned Jew, losing worlds for love and my favours due. And by the evangel strong oath hast sworn to keep our secret intact from scorn. So I took the Torah, and swear strong oath I would hold to the covenant made by both. Then by law, religion, and creed I swear, and bound her by oaths that most binding were, and asked her, Thy name, O my dear delight? And she said, Zayn Al-Mawasif, at home I'm hight. O Zayn Al-Mawasif, cried I, hear my call. Thy love hath made me thy veriest thrall. Then I peeped neareth her chin veil, and spied such charms that the longing of love filled my heart with qualms. Neath the curtain I ceased not to humble me, and complain of my heartfelt misery. But when she saw me by love beguiled, she raised her face veil, and sweetly smiled. And when breeze of union our faces kissed, with musk pod she scented fair neck and wrist. And the house with her essences seemed to drip, and I kissed pure wine from such smiling lips. Then like branch of ban, neath her robe she swayed, and joys erst unlawful she lawful made. And conjoined, through our night we lay, with kiss of inner lip, langue foray. The world hath no grace, but the one loved fear, in thine arms to clasp with possession sheer. With the morn she rose, and she bade good-bye, while her brow shone brighter than moon a sky, reciting at parting, while tears drop hung on her cheeks, these scattered, and others strung. Allah's pact in mind all my life I bear, and the lovely nights and strong oath I swear. Zayn Al-Mawasif was delighted, and said to him, O Masur, how goodly are thy inner gifts! May he live not who would harm thy heart. Then she entered her boudoir, and called him. So he went in to her, and taking her in his arms, embraced her, and hugged her, and kissed her, and got of her that which she had deemed impossible, and rejoiced in winning the sweet of amorous will. Then said she, O Masur, thy good is unlawful to me, and is lawfully thine again, now that we are become lovers. So she returned to him all that she had taken of him, and asked, O Masur, hast thou a flower garden, whither we may wend and take our pleasure? Whereto he answered, Yes, O my lady, I have a garden that hath not its like. Then he returned to his lodgings and bade his slave girls make ready a splendid banquet in a handsome hall, after which he summoned Zayn Al-Mawasif, who came surrounded by her damsels. And they ate and drank and made mirth and merriment, whilst the cup passed round between them, and their spirits rose high. Then lover withdrew with beloved, and Zayn Al-Mawasif said to Masur, I have bethought me of some dainty verses which I would fain sing to the lute. He replied, Do sing them. So she took the lute, and tuning it, sang to a pleasant air these couplets. Joy from stroke of string doth to me incline, and sweet is a morning or early wine, when as love unveileth the amorous heart, and by rending the veil he displays his sign. With a draught so pure, so dear, so bright, is in hand of moons the sun's sheeny shine. O nights, it cometh with joy to rest, the hoar of sorrow by boon divine. Then ending her verses, she said to him, O Masur, recite us somewhat of thy poetry, and favour us with the fruit of thy thought. So he recited these two couplets. We joy in full moon, who the wine bears round, and in concert of lutes that from gardens sound, where the dove moans at dawn, and where bends the bough, to morn and all pathways of pleasure are found. When he had finished his recitation, she said to him, Make us some verses on that which hath passed between us, and thou be occupied with love of me. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease the telling of these tales for today, till it be morrow.